Day 2 of Taste Live, CellarPass, broadcasting from the Napa Valley Film Festival. We are at the Mountain View Hotel, the Calistoga Napa Valley Film Festival Pavilion here in Calistoga for another roaring rendition of Taste Live with CellarPass. And we're going to start things off right. Mimosas minus the orange juice with some truly amazing bubbles from Mumm here in Napa. We have Ludovic, the winemaker at Mumm. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share our wines with Taste Live.
Yeah, we're excited to drink them, and I know we got some bloggers out there on the blogosphere tuning in today that are just as excited. We should probably open up this bottle, huh?
Yes. So try to do it the proper way. Just gently remove the foil on the top. Then you always want to keep your thumb on top of the bottle because corks can fly. And we have about 93 psi of pressure in a bottle of sparkling wine. That's about 2.5 times the pressure in your car tires, so you want to be careful. So when you have the cork secure, you put your hand around it, and you slowly twist the bottle, not the cork. And you should have like a little bit of a quarter turn off of a turn, and you'll see that the pressure is slowly pushing the cork out. So you keep it secure. If you like to be celebratory, you just let it rip and do a big pop. If you want to be discreet in restaurants or in a more romantic setting, you just slowly let the cork push itself out, holding the pressure, and you have just a little psh. There you go.
The technical term for that is gerbil fart.
Gerbil fart. Well, you know, with champagne, they say it should not make more noise than a nun's fart.
Yes, that too.
So it should be
difference.
very discreet.
There we go.
So then, you know, holding the bottle, it's nice for presentation. You keep your thumb in the palm, so you can see the beautiful label, especially this label. The Rosy really pops with the Mumm Napa on the in front of it. And then you pour gently. Try not to create too much foam. Takes a little bit of practice to just get the perfect flow. And some people double pour, some people just tilt the glass so you don't get too much foam. But with a little bit of practice, you'll see you can just perfectly fill it without too much foam.
And you've had a little bit of practice.
I've opened a few hundreds, probably in the thousands actually.
Wow!
But my favorite, of course, and not something to do at home, but is to use the saber.
Okay.
Sabering champagne is a lot of fun. Remember that sparkling wines, because of course we cannot call this bottle champagne, it's from Napa Valley, but if it's very festive, celebratory, I don't like to think about the idea of keeping sparkling wine just for special occasion. The way I look at it is that sparkling wine is not the wine for special occasion, but the one that will make any occasion special. You know, where I grew up in France, giving a bath to the dog is a reason good enough to celebrate with champagne. And there we can call it champagne where I grew up. But Napa Valley has some great offering. This is a Rosy Brut Reserve. It's a step up from our regular Brut Rosé, which is already a great offering. But the Reserve, the name Reserve is used for a lot of things. For us, it means we have more wine that was kept a little bit longer. Reserve in French, so it means you keep it for a longer time. Some of the wines have been aged in French oak barrels before the blending. That's part of the Reserve, and you'll see a little bit of the oak spice in the blend. But we also keep this wine over 3 years on the yeast. This particular blend is a multi-vintage, but most of the wines are from 2006. It's been kept over 3 years on the yeast. And you'll see a lot of the doughy, biscuity characters that will complement the primary fruit from the vineyards.
Can you talk a little bit about where the grapes come from for this wine?
The grape comes from, as our name suggests, Mumm Napa implies that 85% of the blend has to be from Napa Valley. So most of our grapes come from the southern part of Napa Valley. We have a lot of influence from the cold air from the San Pablo Bay. Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, the main grapes we use in our sparkling wines, thrive in cool climate, of course. And as you go closer to San Pablo Bay, the Carneros area, close to the river in the Oak Knoll area, you will get more influence from the cold weather, and we have a lot of great complexity or graduation of flavors. If you take Pinot Noir at the edge of Carneros, it will be mainly the raspberry, strawberry characters. Then as you go up, you get a bit more riper red fruit tones, you get red apples, you get a little bit of the blackberries, and more black fruit, black plums. So we have really a big palette of colors to play with in terms of the flavors. And the same thing happens with the Chardonnay. On the edge of Carneros, you will have more lemony, lime characters. Then as you go up, it's the golden apple, the peach, apricot characters that will develop. The wine, the Brut Rosé Reserve that we're tasting today is a blend of mainly Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. That's actually only Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, but 55% Pinot Noir and 45% Chardonnay.
And can you talk about your artistic process as a winemaker for making sparkling wines and how that differs from making still red and white wines?
Well, it's in the vineyards you have to completely change hats. You know, when you talk about red wines, for example, still wines, we are looking at small clusters, small berries, very low yields to get a concentration of the juice to skin ratio because we want to extract a lot from the skins. While with sparkling wines, we don't extract from the skins, we don't extract from the seeds. All we're looking at is the pulp characters, the juice from inside the berry. We pick much earlier than still wines. Still wines will be 24, 26 breaks. For sparkling wine, we're targeting about 19, 20 breaks. And we really want a crisp acidity because it's synonymous of longevity for sparkling wines. And we let a little bit more yield, bigger cluster, bigger berries, and we really want to concentrate on a long hang time to reach at 19 bricks. So a little reverse philosophy there. The wine, the carbonation comes from the traditional method champenoise or method traditionnelle, as we prefer to bear on the label. We don't want to confuse people. Our identity is Mumm, is Napa Valley. But Mumm is the first part of our name. Our roots go back to 1826 in Champagne. This is when the three German brothers, the Mumm brothers, developed the GH Mumm house. The GH part comes from one of the grandson, George Herman Mumm. In 1852, he took over the reins of the company and rebaptized it GH Mumm. So we emulate the same winemaking technique. It's not an exact copy. We have some freedom of creativity in Napa Valley that we take full advantage of. Like some of our blends will have some Pinot Gris, which would be outlawed in Champagne, but we have the ability to use it in Napa Valley. So we emulate the same winemaking technique, which means the carbonation comes from a secondary fermentation in the bottle. We press the juice, we ferment it, we make a still-based wine that is about 11.3% alcohol, and then we re-ferment the wine in the bottle. And this is where the magic of Champagne or sparkling wine takes place, because that process will develop tertiary flavors, aging flavors. That's where the mocha, the leathery characteristics, the toasty, biscuity characters will come to place. And the longer you age your wine, the more complexity you get.
Beautiful. And so we got these pieces of paper floating around, and these are actually...
I know, it's kind of
it's
weird.
Like a
They're coming from everywhere.
Of questions from bloggers out in the world, and I think that you're so good at what you do that you already answered one of them just now when you were talking about the traditional method. Can you expand on the blend of the Pinot a little bit?
The Pinot Noir, well, as I said, there's 55 or 56, I saw in the notes, 56% Pinot Noir. Most of the Pinot Noir we have in the still wine, it's a white wine. We've pressed the grapes, we fermented the juice, and at that point we have a white, completely white wine. So we blend that wine, we ferment it, we had about 4 or 5% of red wine. And that red wine was led to fully mature in the vineyards. We turn it into sort of a Burgundy-style Pinot Noir, long cold soak, extracting a lot of flavors, aromas, and color, but not too much structure and tannins. Absolutely. And that gives the base for the color. So at that point, we only have 4 or 5% red wine. We let that wine age for a certain amount of time, which is about 3 years for the reserve. And then when it's disgorged, we have the ability to refresh a little bit the color with, again, some red wine, which is used in the process we call the dosage, which is actually, the dosage itself is a syrup that is made of pure cane sugar and reserve wine we've aged, again, a long time in French oak barrels or in stainless steel, and we turn it into a syrup that's almost as viscous as maple syrup. We use a tiny, tiny amount of that syrup to create the acid balance. This is when you look at the Brut, demi-sec, the Doux, and you'll have the different sweetness level for different sparkling wines. A lot of people go for sweetness with rosé. We don't. For me, to get the fruit forward, fruit has a lot of acidity. If you buy it in strawberries, in raspberries, they have a strong acidity. It's part of the fruit character. Of course, there's sugar. But the sugar, we don't want to use the S part of the sugar for sweet or syrupy, but rather for soft and supple. We want to bring the softness that the sugar will bring, but not the syrupy or sugary characters. So we really look at that acid-sugar balance very carefully. But what is very nice about that wine is if you look at the color, that's sort of a salmon color that comes from the aging of the red wine we originally put in the wine. But some of the red wine that we use in the dosage will refresh and keep sort of a pink coral tint color, really fresh pink tint, and a very, very, very exciting color. Rosé has a lot to do with the appearance, of course, and we pay great attention to the color.
So let's say I'm a nut for non-vintage champagne, and I know that backwards and forwards. If I'm going to switch over to start drinking some Napa Sparkling made the traditional method, what are some of those differences going to be, and how is this going to be awesome in its own way?
One of the things that the difference between French champagnes and Napa Valley wines is that we don't put as much reserve wine. Part of the reason is that we have a very repeatable, predictable weather. In Champagne, good, bad vintages have big ups and downs. And part of the idea of keeping reserve wine is to ensure consistency through the good and bad years. So we will have this wine, for example, probably has only 5 to 10% reserve wine, not 20, 30. So we're really trying to bring some of that oak spice, some of that more mature fruit character. But one of the trademark of Napa Valley is generous fruit qualities and fresh fruit qualities straight from the vineyards. The three main parameters that we follow during harvest are, of course, the flavors, the sugar, and the acidity. The acidity drops, the sugar and the flavors go up, and in Napa, we kind of meet that magical point where the sugar, the acidity, and the flavor is perfectly balanced at the time we harvest. So unlike French champagnes, we don't have to adulterate, to add more sugar to get the alcohol level and the body that we're looking for. It's already right there in the vineyards. The acidity drops, but it drops a little bit more than in Champagne. So in Champagne, you'll find more malolactic characters. Most Champagne house with the non-vintage, you'll have 100% malolactic, which brings some creamy, nutty characters. Most of the sparkling wines in California, we try to avoid malolactic because we would deacidify too far. So we're trying to get that natural balance that we get from the vineyards and deliver it to the bottle the best we can.
And then what have the last couple of vintages looked like here in Napa for your sparkling wine?
Well, it's been a really, really good stretch. The last 2 years have been good, but challenging would be the word. When people ask me, what do you think of 2011? I said, the best thing right now is that it's over. Really happy with the quality of the wines. We had very low yields, great concentration, but we had to work very, very hard to get what we needed. A lot of thinning, a lot of botrytis removal before we could pick. It was a very challenging year, but I think right now I would say it's very rewarding. Very pleased tasting the wines in the cellar. Especially the Pinot Noir, the still wines were quite awesome.
What are some of the winemaker's personal favorite dishes to pair with the Brut Reserve Rosé?
The rosé traditionally goes very well with chocolate dessert. So if we have any chocoholic on the other side of the camera, go for it. One of my favorite is the chocolate fondue with the little banana skewers and the strawberries. This is awesome. It goes very well with pretty rich dishes like the foie gras. It has a crisp acidity, very rich flavor, so it will live up to the richness of the dish and cut through the fat. One of my favorite locally is just having it with sushi.
Okay.
Sparkling wine goes very well with spicy dish because the carbonation is like a fire extinguisher to the spice. So if you get a little bit too much of that wasabi sauce, the sparkling wine will counterbalance it very well. Very crisp acidity. Sparkling wine are probably some of the most fruit-friendly wines on the planet. You can pair them with almost anything. Crisp acidity, low alcohol, and carbonation. This is a great combo for food.
Beautiful, and we're hearing sea salt caramels. Is
Perfect.
Another one, and you see Bo saying, nice nose, it's delicate, hints of rose petal and wild berry, a dash of doughy richness as well. Impressive.
And thank you. And a lot of the doughy characters come from that yeast aging, about 3 years on the yeast.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you stopping by and sharing your wine with us.
That was a pleasure, and cheers to Napa Valley and cheers to Taste Live.
There you go. Taste Live CellarPass. Checking out, checking back in just a moment.